All right, well, good morning. My name is Steve Jordan, and I could not be more thrilled to have you guys all joining us here this week in Las Vegas for the NABD Fall Show. I'm the CEO of the NABD, and we're really excited about the week that we have in store for you. I feel like a rose between two thorns, if you can imagine. But we want to, what we wanted to do today as we get started is we really wanted to kind of, set the tone for the week, give you some insider tips on how to get the most out of the conference this week. We've got a lot of great education planned for you. Ingram's going to talk about that here in a second. But one of the things that's the most exciting for us to talk about today, and we want to do that this morning, is talk a little bit about the merger between NADA and NABD, and why that made sense for the industry, why it made sense for NABD, why it made sense for NADA, and at the end of the day, why it makes sense for you, our dealers and our members that we're all trying to serve. So we want to talk a little bit about that, but we also want to look at what's in store for the future as it relates to where do we go from here now that we do have this acquisition and a merger of operations of NABD into NADA. And I have to tell you, I'm thrilled about it because for those of you who don't know me, my background is in fact as a former car dealer. I was a buy here, pay here operator, just like you guys and gals, and we slugged it out on the front lines every day. So if there's one thing I know, it's what you guys are going through every day, day in and day out. There's challenges with buying cars. There's challenges with selling cars. Are you putting a warranty on it? Are you selling service contracts? Do you have a reinsurance company? How can you take advantage of all the things that are happening right now in the industry to make the most out of your business and be as profitable as you possibly can? So we've got a lot of great things in store for everybody this week, and we're really excited about it. But with that, let me pass it over to Ingram to give us a little update on what's to come.
Sure. Good morning and welcome. My name's Ingram Walters, and I'm from a small town, Monroe, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and married into the new car business 28 years ago yesterday. And so from that, I grew out of the new car business. Never really liked the new car business. Grew into buy here, pay here, and became almost obsessed with buy here, pay here. I just loved it. Started out with one location, had as many as 5 locations over the years. The largest I ever remember my portfolio getting was about $26 million. And for years I've reconditioned my own cars, and then I've subbed it out, and then I've got tired of subbing it out and reconditioned them myself again. So I've been through what I call the cycle of buy here, pay here many times. And what I like to see my role here as is one of you guys, as a dealer. And my job, I look at it personally as try to get you to get your money's worth out of this conference, okay? I know because I've been there. You spend a lot of money coming to these things. You got to buy airline tickets. You got to pay for this fancy hotel. By the way, congratulations on the 5K you did this morning just to get here. So congratulations. Pat yourself on the back for that. So great to start out with a little exercise in the morning. But I want to quickly run through how to get the most money, how to get your money's worth out of this show. You should have one of these books from your bag. If you registered, you should have a book like this. I want you to turn in it to Tuesday morning. I'm going to do a quick agenda review, and Steve, jump in here anytime you want to, just to make sure you know where you're supposed to be and what I think you need to do to get your money's worth out of this show. So here we are in the opening, and then Ken Shilson's going to talk about the numbers after this. And, of course, there's nothing more important than the numbers, right? That's the score. And so he's going to really take a deep dive into the numbers right after this, and you'll be able to compare your business to businesses nationally. Then we'll take a quick break and going to come back and talk about Facebook. And this is going to be amazing. Y'all know the internet's changing everything. It sure is in the car business. It's really scary to me how much the internet's changing it. I kind of miss the days when I carried a black book in my back pocket. But I know those are gone forever, so we got to adjust with the times. Then we're going to take a lunch break with the exhibitors. Now, let me tell you what I used to do when I had my employees out here. It's hard to talk to. How many exhibitors do we have, Steve? Over 100 maybe?
Like 90 or something?
Tons of exhibitors, so it's going to be hard to get to all of them. But if there are 2 or 3 of you from one location, why not strategically during that break say, hey, you go talk to this one, and hey, we need a new DMS system. You talk to this one, and hey, we're thinking about going into GPS, so you talk to these 3 GPS guys. So strategically use that lunch break to network with the sponsors and the exhibitors, and then network with dealers around you, because I'm telling you, if you do this right, you can learn as much, Steve, during the breaks here and during the lunches as you'll learn during the presentation. So then after lunch, we'll be broken out into breakout sessions. So there'll be 3 different things happening at one time, okay? 3:15 to 4, there'll be 3 different things. I'll be speaking with Tom Hudson, legal specialist. He and I will be speaking at 3:15 to 4 o'clock. Also, while that's going on, we're going to be talking about lines of credit. And y'all know in Buy Here, Pay Here, unfortunately, money is the mother's milk of Buy Here, Pay Here. So you want to know how to get money, that's going to be where you want to be. And then F&I Products for Success, we'll take a quick break after that, and then we're going to come back, 3 more breakout sessions there, and the room numbers are to the right. So just make sure, why, you know, if there are 2 or 3 of you from one location, why would y'all go to the same one? Why not divide up and then get back together and compare notes afterwards? And then we got a reception tonight at 5 o'clock. What I want you to do in this book, though, is turn to the back. There's a page near the very back called Best Ideas. Looks like this, Best Ideas from this conference. Okay? This, I think, is the most important page in here. So this is the page that when you get back on that airplane and you say, well, I spent $2,000 out there between the plane and the motel room and the $50 breakfasts, and what did I get for it? This needs to be the sheet. This needs to be the sheet that you justify this trip with. And you should have $10,000, $20,000 worth of ideas on this sheet when you leave here. And if you don't, I want you to see me personally. Just come to me and say, hey, give me something to get on my best idea list. When you meet another dealer, say, hey, you tell me one thing to put on my best idea list, and I'll tell you one thing. Okay, because ideas aren't like penny. If I find a penny on the floor and I give it to you, then you've got my penny. But if you have a penny and I have a penny and we share it, an idea, then we both leave with 2 ideas, okay? So make sure when you meet other dealers, you just say, hey, give me something to put on my best idea list. I'm really excited about this merger with NABD. I think Steve Jordan at the helm of this, he's got an awesome board. I'm really happy with the commitment that they made to Buy Here, Pay Here. With Chuck Bonanno, Mark Dubois, Dave Brotherton, a lot of talent there. And of course, Ken and I will still be around for many years. So they made a huge commitment to Buy Here, Pay Here. It's going to be the best thing for the attendees. It's darn sure the best thing for the sponsors and exhibitors. It's going to be the best thing for our fight in Washington, D.C. that's so important. And they're carrying the torch up there in Washington, D.C. So concentrate on this one sheet, best ideas, and let's let it be our job, Ken, Steve, to let's get this list filled up, because we got a lot of talent in the next few days.
Absolutely, and you're always really good at helping people identify the takeaways. And truthfully, we do want you, at the end of this whole show, to be able to walk out with 2 or 3 nuggets that you can take back and put into operations immediately to help you justify the expense of coming out here. And look, we also know that it is a big investment to get on a plane and come out here and take time away from your dealership. But what we are striving to do is make sure that you guys are getting a great return on that investment. Because when you invest in your business through an organization like NADA and NABD to better prepare your dealership and your operations to be best in class and more profitable and compliant, you're really also investing in the industry within NADA, because what we do is we take those proceeds to deliver the conference, but also reinvest it right back into our mission, which at the end of the day is to represent you, our dealers across the country. So Ken, with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about the merger. I know 20 years ago you founded NABD, and it's really been a labor of love for you. And I know how important it is for you to make sure that what you and Ingram have built over the last 20 years lives on in perpetuity. And I just want you to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, Steve. And I want to begin by, as Steve and Ingram did, welcoming all of you to this conference, and thanks for being here. But I want to take a second and just personally thank all of you that supported NABD over the last 19 years. It was you that made NABD the success, and I urge you to continue in that process. And as Steve said, we went through Ingram and I discussed and went through a very extensive process in deciding the future for NABD, and I share with you that, as Steve said, the three things we considered is what's right for the industry, what's right for both of the associations, and most importantly, what's right for our memberships. What's the right thing to do? And I can tell you, I think we landed on the right decision, and I'm so excited about being part of the NABD organization. And I'm going to talk for a few minutes about the process, how we came to the decision, but most importantly, how you, as members of both organizations, can continue to participate and to make NABD grow and make the buy here, pay here industry prosper. Unfortunately, the industry lost a great person, a great friend, and a pioneer in this business when Brian Hopple, one of the partners in AutoMaster Systems, one of the oldest DMS systems, passed away just a couple of months ago. And I just want to take a few minutes and recognize Brian. Brian was known as a pioneer because he took the time to build relationships in this business. He traveled to many of the dealerships out there, helped them not only install AutoMaster software, but to understand what your problems and challenges were and help you find technology solutions for them. In addition, Brian was a family man. He has 3 wonderful daughters who he loved dearly and participated with them in sports and gave them the love that they need and saw them grow. And fortunately, they survived Brian and continue in his good work. Brian was a major player in this industry, but he was also a great friend and sponsor of NABD. He was a major sponsor at every one of our shows, never missed a show, and always was there for us. So we'll miss Brian, and I certainly am glad that his spirit will still remain with us. Ingram, you knew Brian well. Do you want to comment on
Yeah,
it?
sure. I'd like to say a few things about him. I think they're still working on the AV glitch. But when I got the news of Brian Hopple's death, something just hit me because we were the same age. Something occurred to me, and it was quick and it was sudden. But what it was that how the reality of death is so much deeper than the concept of it. When somebody dies your age, you realize, wait a minute, the reality of this is so much more than just the concept of death. And I'll remember Brian Hopple as a man of immense integrity, absolute independence. He was confident and he was certain, always certain. He was gregarious and brash. He was calculating and charismatic. He was forever taking the pulse of the buy here, pay here industry, then helping us work through the roadblocks and implications. He was not always a gentle soul, and he had what I call a limited capacity for suffering fools. He was not always diplomatic, but his bluntness always served a purpose. Brian Hopple was a dreamer. Don Jones and then Mike Downey after him, they were the implementers. Theirs was a partnership forged by respect and fueled by mutual dependency. Brian wanted to smell the flowers. He had Don Jones and Mike Downey to pull the weeds. He inhaled life and exhaled joy. If he had an itch, he scratched it. He lived on full and died on empty. He wasn't overflowing with perfection, but he was overflowing with passion. And I don't mean normal passion. Brian Hopple had passion like a little kid. And when a grown man can have that kind of passion, I think that's special. I think he was special. I admire people that seem to go through life's grinder and never lose their gristle and never lose their grin. And Brian Hopple did that. I think he went through the grinder without losing his gristle and without losing the grin. My guess is it probably took those embalmers 2 hours to bend that grin off his face. So he was always smiling. He was always smiling because he did exactly what he wanted to do. I'll always remember the twinkle in his eye when he told a great story. Brian Hopple was an authentic first edition. For sure, he was authentic first edition. The world was far less dull because of people like Brian Hopple in it. He will be remembered and he will be missed. Godspeed, Brian.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, I'm sorry we didn't get the slides to work, but we'll move on. due diligence, I want to talk a little bit about the process of putting our two organizations together. First of all, we went through an extensive vetting process. We retained an investment banker, and after looking at all the candidates, it was obvious to us that NABD was the right choice. And Steve, Sean Peterson, and others at NABD went through an extensive due diligence process, not just to understand what we did at NABD, but to see how we could put the organizations together and see how we can continue to make and grow the buy here, pay here segment of the industry. And that was very, very important to us. We wanted to make sure that NABD would continue, but we believe, as we do now, that the resources that NABD has are far more extensive than what Ingram and I could provide at NABD. And we felt with those additional resources, it would benefit all the members of both organizations. But now I ask for your help, and through continuing participation. As I mentioned, you made NABD possible, and we want you to continue your support and to participate. If you were here yesterday, you would have seen some of these additional resources that NABD can bring to bear. We had a BHPH commission meeting. We now have a voice in Washington for the buy here, pay here industry, and that's so important. NABD has a wonderful state infrastructure, and that's so important. I want to encourage all of you to be members in your state organizations and have a voice there, because it's so important to the future of our industry to have strong state support. We want to continue some of the things that we did at NABD that were important to us. One of those was our Hall of Fame. We wanted to recognize the leaders in this industry. And I will tell you, having spent the last 25 years working in this industry, it has some of the very best business people I've ever met in my life. And everything that I know about buy here, pay here, I learned from you. And I just want to continue to recognize those leaders, because it's important that they stand up and continue to lead. So we have a Hall of Fame. And in our Hall of Fame, it's important that we recognize a lifetime of contribution, because that's what true success is in the buy here, pay here business. Achievement over a lifetime of good work and contributions. And to that end, we want input from you. We want to know who you feel should be candidates to come into the Hall of Fame. There's in the program guide, there's a sheet for nominations, and we want to encourage you to give us nominations so we can continue to add people to our Hall of Fame. That's very important. Our voice in Washington. I can't emphasize enough how important it is that we have a collective voice in this industry. And I've had the pleasure of participating in the policy conferences for NABD from inception over the last 6 years, and it's a wonderful experience. I encourage each and every one of you to participate in the policy conference and have a voice. Meet with Congress, meet with the regulators, let them know, first of all, help them understand what our business is all about, and secondly, what your concerns are and how to treat the industry fairly. We provide an important source of transportation in this country, and in order to do that, we need a strong voice. And NABD and its leadership is doing the right thing in going to Washington and speaking out for all of you. But we need your support, strength in numbers. I think our plans are to put our collective training ideas together, as you'll see in this show. We've expanded the show not just to buy here, pay here, but also into the subprime area, because we see most of you doing both of those together in your business, and we think that's an important part. We want you to continue to attend these conferences and participate. We want your thoughts on how we can make the training more meaningful for you and bring about more success. We want you to participate in your state organization training, because I think there's three legs on the educational stool. There's your state association, there's your national association, and then you need specialized training for whatever segment of the industry you're in. And I'm also excited about the 20 groups that NIADA has. If you're not a member of a 20 group or don't know about them, make sure you get with the NIADA 20 group people in the dealer lounge during this conference and understand how 20 groups can help you. And other member benefits. I know there's a number of things planned. Steve's going to talk about those, and I think those are extremely important, and are things that we realize that we couldn't offer at NABD, and just more benefits for you. So as I conclude, your support of NABD over the last 19 years proved to me that you believe the buy here, pay here industry is a very important sector in the used car industry. And I believe it is as well. And powered by NIADA and our collective memberships, we can keep NABD alive and keep the buy here, pay here industry growing. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we appreciate your leadership, Ken, over the last 20 years. And I do want to just tie into one thing that you mentioned, and that is we want to, as we move ahead, we want to make sure that the core objectives of NABD continue. And that is, in fact, to offer the best specialized buy here, pay here training and education that exists within our industry. And we don't want to change anything. We want to build on it. We want to pool our resources. And you know, since I've become the CEO of the NIADA, a lot of you may have heard me say, I believe as an industry, we are much better together when we're rowing in the same direction, and we're pooling our resources and working together for the betterment of the industry. There's no limit to what we can do. I think Ronald Reagan said there's no limit to what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. And I think at the end of the day, as an association, what we want to do is continue to work together and pool our resources, bring the best and brightest talent together, so that you, as buy here, pay here dealers, you know, have the best resources available to you. So, you know, so we're really excited about that. And it does also, you know, the acquisition of NABD does tie into the long-term strategy for NIADA. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is what we want to do with NIADA is give every dealer in our industry a place at the table. This is NIADA and NABD, those are your organizations. They're your opportunity to engage in a meaningful way within our industry. And we feel like it's our obligation to our members to make sure that you have the resources you need to be the best and brightest operators you can be in your community, to be profitable, to be compliant. And we feel like it's important for NIADA to provide those entry points to you as dealers, and the NABD acquisition just played more into that long-term strategy. But when I talk about the long-term strategy of NIADA, I just want to touch on that for a second, because we're a dealer-governed organization. We have 10 members of an executive committee. We have 4 regional vice presidents that want to hear from you. They want to hear about things that are happening in your neck of the woods, in your businesses, in your operations. So those regional vice presidents are your voice to the NIADA, and certainly, you know, you can talk to anybody within NIADA, me, myself, our staff, anybody on the executive committee. We want to hear from you about ways that we can do better to serve you as our members. But ultimately, we have 5 strategic priorities as NIADA, and number 1 is government affairs and legislative representation. We want to be your active voice in Washington, D.C. to help tell your story. So a few years ago, we put together a policy conference. We just finished it a couple of weeks ago. Sean Peterson is going to talk a little bit more about that, I think this afternoon. But that was a great opportunity where we brought about 200 dealers and leaders together to go to Capitol Hill to tell your story. You know, there's a lot of things happening in Washington, D.C., and there's an old saying in D.C. that says, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And Sean and his team are doing a great job of making sure that dealers are not on the menu in Washington, D.C., and that we're telling your story. The second thing we want to do is provide best-in-class education. And that's where NABD also added to the educational support that we can provide our dealers. We have great member benefit programs that is kind of our third strategic priority, so that we can offer great resources for you and your dealerships to be competitive, to have those kind of resources in the aggregate. The fourth thing is we have 44 state associations across the country that really do give us the opportunity to have a dual layer of advocacy, not only at the national level, but at the state level as well. So that's our fourth strategic priority. And then our last is our foundation. NABD has a foundation. For example, last year we raised about $180,000 for hurricane relief efforts in the aftermath of Harvey in Houston and Irma in Florida. And we raised $180,000 and gave away 100% of that money to members of our dealer community that were affected by those hurricanes, who woke up the day after those hurricanes and had nothing. So those are kind of the 5 strategic priorities, just a very high level touch on that. But I hope what you guys can see is how NABD is moving forward along those strategic priorities, and the dovetailing of operations from NABD into that narrative makes all the sense in the world. And we're really thrilled about the opportunity to continue to take what Ken and Ingram have built over the last 20 years and build on it and grow it, and be as much of a resource to you guys as we can. Ingram?
Okay, thanks, Steve. By the way, awesome reception last night. That was fantastic. I hope you made it out there. Thanks to TrueCar, CalAmp, and TaxMax for sponsoring that awesome poolside reception last night. That was a great way to start the show. I'm a goal setter, Steve, and I set goals for myself and I write them down. I'm gonna set a goal for you guys right now. Okay, remember the best ideas sheet that I talked about? Let's set a goal to try, by the time we come back from lunch, 3 o'clock, when we finish the networking lunch with exhibitors, I'm gonna set a goal for all of you to have something on that list, or enough items on that list that you think will pay for this trip, okay? I think that'd be really cool. If you could do it by the end of the lunch break on day 1, if you could have enough on that sheet to pay for this trip, I think that would be really, really cool. And let me tell you how to do it in the exhibit hall, okay? Think about this. This is what a lot of people miss. I can tell you one way to run a buy here, pay here business. Daryl Jackson from Charlotte, North Carolina, he's right here on the front row. He's got 5 locations, probably north of $20 million receivable. He can tell you another way to do it. But think about this. Think about these exhibitors in the exhibit hall, okay? Think about, let's take Mike Downey with AMS, Automaster Systems. Let's say you're completely happy with your DMS system, okay? Not interested in changing, completely happy. Well, if I'm you and I want to improve my buy here, pay here business, I'd go to Mike Downey and say, Mike, you've got thousands of dealers. What's the best ones do? How would you do this business if you got out of the software business and got into buy here, pay here? Would it be a $4,000 ACV, or would it be $8,000? Or would it be $12,000 trucks? Would you spend $900 reconditioning the car, or would you spend $200? What would you do? You know, there's just so much knowledge in that exhibit hall. Think about the guys doing GPS. Think how many customers they have. Think how many buy here, pay here guys that they know. Say, hey, what are the best ones doing? Are they doing big ACVs? Are they doing monthly payments or biweekly payments? Or are they using GPS or start or interrupt or a combination? There's just so much knowledge in there, Steve, not just from dealers, but guys that have hundreds of dealers doing business with them. So think about it. Go talk to these guys, even if you're not interested in their product. Try to be a sponge. Try to suck something out of them. Get some information, get some knowledge out of those people. It's called networking, okay? They don't call it net eating, net gambling, net drinking. They call it networking, okay? So get in there and network and set a goal to get something put on this sheet that'll pay for this trip by 3 o'clock today.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
That's a great point, Ingram. And I will just echo that and say you'll get out of this conference what you put into it. And one of the biggest things that we want to make sure we continue to do is give Ken Shilson a forum to continue to do his benchmarks, which I know are an important contribution of data to the industry. So in the interest of time, we will now go ahead and turn it over to Ken to give us the industry benchmarks for this year. Ken?